President Trump has again slammed Attorney General Jeff Sessions. In an interview with The Hill released Wednesday, he continued his criticism. The president cited the Russia probe and immigration among multiple reasons he has taken issue with his Attorney General. CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reid has the latest.
As he left the White House this morning, President Trump once again attacked Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General for numerous reasons.
Trump has repeatedly criticized Sessions for recusing himself in the Russia investigation. In an interview with The Hill Tuesday, he escalated his attack, saying, "I don't have an attorney general. It's very sad," and said he was unhappy with Sessions' work at the border. Sessions has typically stayed quiet in the wake of such attacks. In August, he issued a rare statement noting his unprecedented success at effectuating the president's agenda. At the border, Sessions has diligently worked to deliver on the president's campaign promises, expediting deportations, limiting asylum seekers, and opposing sanctuary cities. In his interview with two conservative commentators from The Hill, the president also took aim at another frequent target, federal law enforcement. He described the FBI's Russia investigation as a cancer and suggested that declassifying documents related to the investigation will be one of his crowning achievements. Today, Attorney General Jeff Sessions spoke to a group of law enforcement officials in Waukegan, Illinois.
We believe that law enforcement is a noble profession and one that demands respect.
CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reid joins us now from the White House. Paula, you mentioned that Sessions rarely publicly responds to the president's attacks, but what can you tell us about his, non-public response to the president's most recent comments?
That's right. Today, when he was giving a speech outside Chicago, he didn't directly respond to the president's comments, but we were given an advance copy of his remarks. I was following along, and it was interesting that he took out a reference to President Trump improving morale among law enforcement. But in the rest of the speech, he did what he usually does, which is he acknowledges the president's efforts, his focus on law enforcement. He always talks about how he is there on behalf of President Trump and reiterates that part of President Trump's agenda is really so focused on law enforcement, and today's speech was no different. You saw several mentions about the president, but one kudo he took out. I think that's just about all we're going to get from Jeff Sessions in response to today's attacks. Of course, he's been enduring these repeated attacks for over a year now.
That's right, because otherwise, you're right, the Attorney General has publicly been very supportive of President Trump. But with so much ire directed at Sessions from the president, the question has been, is Sessions at risk of being fired? But he's still in his position now. So what does this all really mean?
He's still in the job, remarkably, and he likely will continue to be so at least through the midterms. It appears that even though the president is extremely frustrated, publicly frustrated with him, not only over his recusal, but now he says, based on his work at the border, the president does not feel that he can actually fire his attorney general. Now, this is a man who has had no problem firing people, including top law enforcement officials, like, for example, former FBI Director James Comey. But it seems that the president, for some reason, does not want to fire Sessions. Now, we don't know exactly what the reason is. I have asked him during gaggles here at the White House, and he just sort of brushes it off and says, we'll see. But some good reasons you might not want to fire Jeff Sessions is, first of all, the president is under investigation for possible obstruction of justice based on the firing of James Comey, based on what appears to be pressure he's put on his own attorney general based on decisions he's made in the Russia probe, also conversations that the president has had with other top FBI officials. Another reason is that Republicans really support Sessions. The Republicans who support the president and his platform on immigration, they know that Jeff Sessions has been for strict enforcement of our immigration laws since long before President Trump was even considering getting in the political game. They know that Sessions works day in and day out to implement the president's campaign promises about immigration. He's gone after sanctuary cities. He's expedited deportations. He has tried to make it harder to seek asylum here. He has done pretty much everything within his power to deliver on that. So those are two good reasons as to why he may not be fired yet. Also, folks in the Senate have said if you don't come up with a good reason to fire him, if he's not fired without cause, we're not going to confirm his replacement.
Right. You got Senator Graham, who had said that firing Sessions would be a very bad move, and he considers himself among the president's friends. Beyond immigration, and you touched on a little bit of it there, have there been other issues President Trump has brought up in relation to the Attorney General?
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of the president's displeasure with the attorney general. At first, it was very clear he was extremely angry that the attorney general recused himself in the Russia investigation. He said that he wanted someone like Attorney General Eric Holder. He feels that Eric Holder sort of took on things that President Obama didn't want to deal with or needed someone to deal with, even if it wasn't really politically very viable. The president has said he feels betrayed by the attorney general's decision on that issue. But it appeared once you looked at the Senate, the folks who would need to confirm a replacement, they weren't buying that. That was not acceptable, especially in the context of the ongoing Russia investigation, which also involves possible obstruction of justice. So then the president started making vague comments about other things that he was frustrated about with regard to the president. We pressed Sarah Huckabee Sanders on what specifically those things were. It wasn't clear. And today we got sort of our first hint. And he said, I'm not happy with things at the border. Well, like I just said, Jeff Sessions has spent his entire term at the Justice Department delivering on immigration promises. But sources have suggested to me that the zero tolerance policy, the policy that resulted in the separation of families, that the president is eager to try to pin that on his attorney general, even though the chief of staff here and others at the White House defended that and supported that policy as a deterrent.
Very interesting point. I'm just wondering how people inside the White House that you've been in contact with have reacted to President Trump's attacks on Attorney General Sessions.
Well, this is nothing really new. While the attacks were sort of amped up today a little bit, suggesting that he had no attorney general, and that was very sad. Really, the only thing we got was this kind of clue. The only thing that was really new is this clue about the border being the next reason that he may try to float. Now, some people see that as just being pretext for a reason to fire him, but other people think, yep, zero tolerance, that's going to come back around. They have to see what happens at the midterms, and after the midterms, particularly if Republicans are victorious in the Senate, then Jeff Sessions' job, it may be at risk, Carol.
All right, Paula Reid, across all of it for us. Paula, thanks very much.